Friends, Vitaly Portnikov here. Zelensky could meet Trump as soon as December 28, if talks between American and Ukrainian delegations on finalizing Trump's so-called peace plan progress as scheduled. The path to the meeting. The U.S. leadership's focus on ending the Russo-Ukrainian war was clear during Zelensky's talks with U.S. President Special Envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. These talks took place on Christmas night, unprecedented in American politics. After Zelensky, National Security and Defense Council Secretary Rustem Umerov continued talks with the American representatives. Key discussion points. While there's no specific information on these talks, it's safe to assume American and Ukrainian representatives are discussing the most difficult aspects of Trump's peace plan, still unresolved between the U.S. and Ukraine. Territorial issues. This concerns the wording of the so-called territorial issue. We know Ukraine, the US, and obviously Russia have different approaches. Security guarantees. It could involve security guarantees for Ukraine, as Kiev and Washington may differ on what should be included in a peace agreement and whether it will be legally binding, especially for the United States. Energy infrastructure. And, of course, there's the complex issue of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, who controls it and how energy will be distributed following agreements to end the Russo-Ukrainian war. Moscow's perspective. Moscow is also watching these peace talks with obvious interest. Journalists report that during his traditional meeting with Russian industrialists, Putin mostly discussed settling the war and controlling the Zaporizhzhia plant. But, according to the Russian president, talks are solely about joint US-Russian control, ignoring Ukraine's role. Yet, Putin discussing war and talks with his businessmen may show not his desire, but his awareness that ending the war is a real request from Russian oligarchs, who've lost much in 4 years of war and could lose more. The role of strategy and sanctions. But a question always arises: let's imagine Trump and Zelensky agree on the toughest points of a peace plan. How much can the US president influence Putin to agree to proposals already agreed with Zelensky? Or will Putin make his own proposals, which could derail the entire negotiation, and Trump try to implement them in further talks with Zelensky, or will endless delegation talks continue, with the US mainly mediating? That's actually a key question in this peace process. How much can we talk about a real desire to reach a peace deal, and how much do we see the Russian president stalling, and how long can Putin stall, and will Donald Trump agree to such stalling? Conclusion and future outlook. Won't the result of the current talks be the U.S. readiness to impose tougher sanctions on the Russian Federation? Or Trump may think that any new pressure on Putin will only reduce the chance of a deal. As happened these days, when American pressure and that of those who support America in Europe forced Europeans to abandon the idea of confiscating frozen Russian assets for Ukraine, as planned before the EU summit. It seemed all the necessary measures had been taken to ensure such a decision could be passed by a qualified majority. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen because Washington believed that passing such a decision could torpedo Trump's peace plan. And so any new pressure, from the U.S. administration's point of view, could torpedo its peace plan. In this situation, Putin may be interested in continuing peace process talks as long as he needs to prevent new sanctions. Obviously, as the Kremlin predicted when they offered their version of the peace plan. Still, despite our constant fear that it's just a stall tactic, the fact that the American and Ukrainian presidents will meet before the New Year holiday, during the U.S. holiday season, still shows Donald Trump's strong interest in quickly achieving some real results in the negotiations. As the U.S. president said, he could be celebrating Christmas, but there's no time, because he has to deal with the Russia-Ukraine war, as he put it, Russia, Ukraine, and China. By the way, precise wording, considering Beijing's role in this conflict. And it means whoever stops Trump from reaching a quick solution will provoke, to put it mildly, a negative reaction. And it's in Ukraine's interest that the country provoking this reaction and facing new, strong pressure from the states is the Russian Federation. Thank you, friends. Stay tuned, subscribe, follow my socials, and be a Portnikov's Patreon, which helps grow these resources. Use the YouTube sponsorship feature. Victory and peace to you. Good luck.